All right, thank you all for coming today. Let me call this meeting of the New Mexico Museum of Space History Governor's Commission to order. And first thing we'll do is let's go around here and just say for the record who is in the room. I see here that I've got from the commission, Commissioner Churchill, Commissioner Elder, Commissioner Fahey, Commissioner Fryer, Commissioner McAteer, Commissioner O'Leary, Commissioner Omeg, Commissioner Tappan, and John Haas is here. And I see that Commissioner Cross has also just joined. And I think that that is attendance for the commission right now. Chris, who do we have on your end?
We've got joining us Sharon Masters, and then together in the room with Commissioner Elder, we've got Kathy Harper and Tony Gondola. And then joining us also is Dave Dooling. He's the little spaceman there, and you'll notice that he has video, but he's not actually sharing it. Dave has a large black eye in any case, so he will be joining us audio only at this point. And also where he's located up in the mountains, the streaming is not so good, so that's part of the reason why he will just be joining us via audio. And then just joining us here, still connected to audio, is Billy Jones, Deputy Director.
Welcome. And from DCA in the state, who do we have today? I see Valerie Joe with us.
And Patrick Moore here.
Hello, Patrick.
And Valerie Joe, Commission Counsel from the Attorney General's office.
Thank you. And do we have anybody joining us today from the foundation? Doesn't seem so.
We were expecting somebody, but nobody has joined us yet.
Okay. We will hopefully they'll join in a few minutes, and we'll welcome them when they do. Okay, let me go on to item number 3. I think actually this will be a relatively short meeting today. I apologize for keeping you all so long last time. We have a slightly shorter agenda.
We're in the meeting now.
And if I could just ask those of you to check your mics if you're not muted, so we can keep the background noise down. Okay, the first item is number 3 is to approve the agenda for this meeting. I have one slight change to the agenda, and I'll note that the Commissioner Martinez has just joined us. And that's simply that the date in item number 3 is incorrect. It should be the 29th, not the 28th. I think we all know that. But that's the only change that I see to the agenda, and it's editorial. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda. Jacqueline Fryer.
Second, O'Leary.
All right, we'll proceed with a roll call vote since we're still all doing this virtually. Commissioner Churchill.
Aye.
Commissioner Cross.
Aye.
Commissioner Elder.
Aye.
Commissioner Fahey.
Aye.
Commissioner Fryer.
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez.
Aye.
Commissioner McAteer.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Leary.
Aye.
Commissioner Omeg.
Aye.
Commissioner Tappan.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well, John Haas. Agenda is approved. Item number 4 is approving the minutes of the July 16th meeting. I have one note to accompany that. I honestly don't think it's a correction because the minutes do accurately reflect that we planned to have a meeting on the 27th of August. That was subsequently canceled. And so that meeting did not happen. I think with just noting in the minutes for this meeting that we discussed that we did not hold that actual meeting on the 27th of August. is all we really need to do. But I don't have any other changes that I found. Does anyone else have any changes to the minutes from last time? Commissioner O'Leary?
I just have a question on page 4, which is the last page of this unpaginated document. On the establishment of the collections committee, I believe we had volunteers during that meeting.
We did talk about that, and I was going to bring that up in the discussion for the collections committee. I didn't have in my notes, other than I know that I volunteered to be on that committee. I think that the action item at the time was to establish the committee, and I was going to circle back around since now the committee is established, and then formally ask for members who are interested in joining that committee. I believe that there are 3 open slots.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Beth, I was confused by the same thing, and I think that was my fault. But we had to establish it before we could go and get people to join.
So it was established now?
It was established at the last meeting,
Yeah.
so we voted on that, but we didn't. I didn't appoint anybody. I was just asking for volunteers.
Yeah. They're done. So do I need to get an invoice on them or just?
Was there a motion to accept the minutes from last meeting on July 16th?
Yes, could you tell who's ever got their phone on or something to turn it off?
Yeah, can we ask folks who are not muted to please mute your mics? Thank you. And did I hear a motion to approve the minutes from July 16th?
So moved.
Second?
A second. Paulo.
Paulo. And by roll call vote, Commissioner Churchill?
Aye.
Commissioner Cross?
Aye.
Commissioner Elder?
Aye.
Commissioner Fahey?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryer? Commissioner Fryer, we couldn't hear you. Understood. Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner McAteer?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Leary?
Aye.
Commissioner Omig? Paulo also indicates by video his approval. Commissioner Tappan?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, John Haas. Item number 5 is report from DCA. Patrick, do you have anything you'd like to discuss with us today?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, John and commissioners. Moving into budget season, which is an exciting time for DCA, and I've been following the news, which seems like we are indeed moving in the right direction, that there hopefully will be some capital available to us. Department of Cultural Affairs has focused on a number of large umbrella issues, many of which relate directly to space history and its directive. The first primary issue, I got sort of 4 that we're going to cover just briefly. Critical priority number 1 that's gone to the governor's office for our needs is looking at increases to support statutory mandates related to cultural resources, protection and preservation, and education. This is going to be a base budget request of $2.5 million, and certainly those issues of how we fit as cultural institutions and tie in with our needs for preservation and education can go a long way to help forward those priorities. Second to that one in particular, looking at Southern region facilities, space history included in this one, is looking for facility support. Department of Cultural Affairs has long worked in an umbrella operation where each individual units, divisions, took care of their own facilities. And under the current cabinet secretary and the administration, a lot of effort gone into how do we create a much more cohesive system so that we're being far more efficient with the resources that we have in terms of equipment, as well as the personnel to execute those. So in this, looking for resources at $130,000 to hire a Southern region facilities manager. Even with my world and historic sites, we're seeing just the power of having all DCA facilities resources at our disposal to address things. And the same works with Chris in the shop down there, so that if we have electricians and plumbers and others, we can minimize costs and bring people from elsewhere around the state to accomplish these. And having that manager come in to help facilitate this and coordinate those resources as well as equipment will certainly be beneficial. We have another $150,000 budget request coming up, an expansion to look at contract and operating funding for arts learning and education, which will certainly be powerful there considering the educational mission that we have at Space History. And finally, one of the governor and the cabinet secretary's strong focus is how do we expand our reach into rural and tribal communities. And there's no question, we think of rural, most people think outside of Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Las Cruces metro areas, but this will help us a great deal in trying to reinforce that mission focus. How do we connect with those smaller communities? And Chris has done a remarkable job in developing educational programs, but how those tie in with his traveling van program, how do they get out across the state and do these? So these are some of the major DCA-wide priorities that we will be bringing into the incoming legislative session. In terms of space directly, for those people who are unfamiliar with the process, probably most people are, but we look at both general fund resources that we can to support DCA entities, but we also have the opportunity to focus on individual capital outlay from key legislators who are there. And there's no question that Space History has been one of the most successful in doing this, as we have a very strong advocacy group within the legislature. In that, we go through a process where you have to prepare your requests. It has to be on a capital outlay long-term request form that has been submitted to the Legislative Finance Committee. And this coming year, International Hall of Fame Foundation is actually the requesting entity, since DCA does not do it, but the foundation does, requesting $656,832 for a spectrum of projects. And I won't scoop Chris on these projects themselves. I'll let him discuss them if he likes. But that process that is in on December 8th, I believe, we'll be doing a presentation to legislators on what's happening. And these forms have now been digitally submitted. Once a time where you had to do these paper forms and wander around and get them signed off. These are done digitally now, one of the outcomes of COVID. They're already in the hands of Legislative Council Services, and they'll go forward with solicitation and encouraging our legislators in that region to support this capital outlay that will be coming forward. So there will be an opportunity for you all, if you elect to do so, to communicate with the key legislators who will be interested in funding this, to support this, support these resources, which can go a long way to expanding the direction that Chris has put into place along with his staff and you all. So those are sort of the highlights of where we're heading, and will become more exciting as the months go forward, as we lead up to the legislative session starting in January. So with that, I stand for questions.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick? Okay, I have a couple.
Sure.
So I'm curious, what is going to be contained in the portfolio of the facility manager that you mentioned?
The Southern Region portfolio will primarily focus on space history, farm and ranch heritage, the historic sites, Mesilla, Taylor in Las Cruces, Radium Springs, Lincoln, and Fort Stanton. And there may be some Fort Stanton historic sites, and there may be some overlap with supporting Bosque Redondo Memorial at Fort Sumner historic site, but almost exclusively will be focused on the Southern Region sites and museums. Okay.
Does that involve any rearrangement of budgets or any alleviation of particular duties with respect to what the museum now handles directly?
I think there will probably be some level of realignment on how is it that we can make the workflow process, in particular with processing of budget, getting contracts in place that will transition. Cultural Affairs has put into place a much broader infrastructure for supporting capital outlay, funneling. How is it that we manage all the budgets? How do we deal with the contracts? How do we deal with the bid process as that comes into place? And this hasn't necessarily been available to a large extent to the Southern Region, and bringing these under that should alleviate some of those responsibilities and but still provide the same kind. It'll still be Chris's facility staff working down there. They'll just have better resources available to them to execute.
Okay, well, that sounds good. And I guess lastly, just a couple of comments. I certainly am really pleased to hear about the emphasis on outreach to the rural and underrepresented communities. I know that that's something I've personally had some conversations with Commissioner Fahey about, and I think we'll be able to help with some ideas and some contacts along those lines. So I'm glad that that's getting some attention at the state level. And then finally, we currently, and this is again just a discussion point or a comment for everyone, we had not done too much work talking about the Legislative Affairs Committee because there hasn't been anything for it to do. It sounds like in January we need to start rethinking this. We currently have one member of the Legislative Affairs Committee, and that is Dr. Tappan. And I think that it'd be nice if we can find some ways to help him not go that alone if that comes to pass. So, Bryce, I'll reach out to you independently, and we'll talk about that and see if there's something we can do to help out with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions for Patrick Moore?
I just something there for you, John. I had said I would help out in that committee.
Oh, very well.
A
Let
couple
me
of
make
times.
sure I'd make note of that. Thank you. Thank you, James. Okay, keep my notes up to date. All right, thank you, Patrick. All right, item number 6 on our agenda is the International Space Hall of Fame Foundation comments by Mr. Powell or Mr. Hudson.
Okay, well, good afternoon. This is Cliff Hudson. I'm a little bandwidth constrained today, so I turned my video off to make sure audio is coming through fine. Want to share a couple of things with you today. First, to follow up on Patrick's comments regarding the budget that's been submitted. We did receive the cover sheet for the budget, but we'd like to set up some time to make sure we fully understand the budget request. We want to make sure the foundation fully uses our membership to reach our legislators to make sure that they understand the importance of the budget request. So look forward to working with you, Patrick and Chris, as we work through that. One other thing I want to share, we just completed our Trinity site visit. It was the largest that had ever been held. Almost 300 attendees, 6 buses, a lot of logistics, and I'll let Johnny share a little bit more about that as a wrap up here. But thanks again to the partnership with the museum. Everyone showed up around dark 30, around between 4:30 and 5, and started setting up. And we had just a tremendous logistics challenge, but we made it through it. And feedback that we've received, very good feedback on the event. We already have almost 50 visitors for the April event in 2022. So I'm really pleased with the outcome and the future as well in that regard. And with that, I'll turn it over to Johnny for any follow-up comments.
Actually, I'm going to go. That's a hard act to follow right now. Cliff's comments were pretty comprehensive. We were very excited about the Trinity event. One of the things that not only are we so excited about how this event went, but we also are very pleased with what we've learned on how to handle future events and this type of volume of people and the logistics involved in it. And even though, as Cliff said, that this one went very well. We've seen room for improvements, and we're making some adjustments now, and we're looking forward to the next one. And we just absolutely had a great time. We're going to use the downtime. We're working on interlocking some of our registrations with stuff. We actually had a milestone last week, and I'll leave you with this. Then just creating forms and stuff like this. I've redirected people to a thank you page that we host on our site. and which is something that we haven't done before. I very much specialize these pages so that I can go, well, thank you, Billy Jones. We sure do appreciate what you did. We hope you and your wife and yada, yada, and such as that. So we can very much personalize that. So with that, we had a reservation come in for Trinity, and we haven't opened reservations yet, our registrations yet for April. But I was practicing, and I had actually a live button on the website. This gal hits the thank you form, finds the live button on the website, posts it, and sends us $250. She's on our April bus. And so anyway, and all of that just serendipitously. So we're really pleased with how that's going. And that's what we have for the foundation comments. Any questions for us?
What's the specific date in April for the next one?
April 9th. The Trinity site visit has been moved. It's the second Saturday in April and the second Saturday in October. Previously the first of both of those, but not to be confused, it's now been moved to the second. So in April's case, it'll be the 9th.
And let me clarify, I mentioned we have almost 50 for the April visit. Those 50 came from attendees who could not make it to the October, and we roll those over. Johnny said registration hasn't opened yet. I want to clarify how we actually have almost 50 attendees already. John, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was going to say congratulations on all the successes that you've had recently. It really sounds like things are paying off there. Commissioner O'Leary, you had some questions.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that the tour came off, and you got a lot of people going there. I think it's pent up desire to get out of the house and see other things. I'm wondering though, either Johnny or Cliff, who did you coordinate with at the White Sands Missile Range in terms of the archaeologists or the historians?
I'll kind of take that. Actually, as far as the educational aspect of that would have been the museum side of the education department. So the foundation had no direct contact within that aspect, Ms. O'Leary.
Yeah, Kathy could probably answer that. Kathy?
Yes, thank you, Dr. O'Leary. As Johnny said, and I'm going to move this down for a moment just so that you can hear me speak clearly. We coordinate with our education department to be the motor coach tour guides for our guests. This year, we also had a member of our foundation board who was one of our docents on board, along with several other members of our foundation board who came along to assist the onboard docents. We have a couple of folks in the community that have volunteered for April. And this past tour for October, we also had a gentleman who is normally a volunteer for the National Atomic Museum in Albuquerque, but he and his wife came down specifically to assist us with our tour this year. And if I might ask for a question of Johnny, I know that we transferred about 50 guests from October to April of this year, Johnny, but how many reservations do we now have for April that are not 100%? They're not registrations, they're reservations.
And that's a hard one. I stumble on that one every time. I don't know where they are. I just know who's paid and who hasn't. Anyway, right now we're sitting at about 100 and just a little bit over 150 reservations, and those are actually group reservations. So that's going to range from anybody from the one person to we've had as many as 6 people register at once, and so we have a little over 150 groups. Now, to put that into perspective, the actual this number, we took actually 300 people out, counting staff. 287 of those were paid guests, and of that represented 139 groups. So you can see that with what we already have in there, if all these people that are reserved actually come back and register, we're going to overbook April just as soon as we open it up.
One of the reasons I asked that question is Bill Godby is the archaeologist over at White Sands that deals with the Cold War history and is also involved in the restoration of the ranch house. And I think would be, an added bonus to have some of his expertise on working out there as the archaeologist, and actually won an award from the state from that. I'm also wondering if you cover at all the downwinders, the group that was interested in the effects of the testing of the bomb at Trinity site.
The tour guys that are on the buses, they're all dealing with they're doing their discussions, obviously, because we have 6 buses. So we have 6 tour guides on the buses. So each and every single one of them is a little bit different. In my situation, because I was the tour guide on bus number 1, that we did mention the discussions of the fallout from the bomb itself, the directions that things went, et cetera, and where stuff fell out. We mentioned that the organization exists, but we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the organization's goals and things like that. We really just said, if you're interested in it, you can take a look into it. But we don't spend a lot of time talking about the organization, just the fact that it exists, why it exists, as part of the history of it. So, because we were trying to stick with the history and avoid some of the politics.
Well, history is not always nice and neat, and I think to say that there are contested areas, you don't have to be a proponent of the effects of the bomb, but you certainly have to mention it. And I think that the more open and available the discussion is, the better off it is. But I'm glad the tour was successful.
Any other questions for the foundation? Very well. Let's see, on to the division director's report from Mr. Orwell.
So sent out the written report. Hopefully everybody over the last couple of days got a chance to look over that. The basics, I'm going to just give a couple of updates within that. On the personnel side, actually, one of the things that was listed in there was that we were still awaiting some of the personnel actions to move forward that didn't have specifically to do with hiring, and that had to do with reclassifications and things like that. And that had been jammed up waiting for the state to work through all the personnel hiring issues. Interestingly enough, over the last few days, the first of some of those items for us have started to be unblocked, and we're moving forward with some of those requests. So that's good that the personnel actions besides hiring are moving forward. We're short some staff. The good news is that one of the things that we just found out is that we had been trying to reclassify our multimedia artists to instructional coordinators. The first of those has gone through, and the posting for that should be within the next few days. So that position will be hiring in the new instructional coordinator capacity. So that's, personnel things are finally really moving forward, and DCA got a new person heading up HR, and some of this stuff is just coming unblocked very quickly with some of the changes in the state's rules, et cetera. On the budget side, things are going very well. With our budget, we're well under it as far as our spending for this year. Income, we're well under what we would hope to be at as well, but that's because of the combination of reduced hours and reduced rates for entry. And hopefully we're going to be able to change that very soon, because there's been progress on the restrooms. That has been an ongoing saga that Patrick will tell you that has just been a topic of discussion for so long. It's just insane. They finished building the entire hospital next to us while in the time that our restrooms have been trying to get refinished, and it all comes down to the flooring. The good news is that on Monday or Tuesday of this week, they put down the clear coats on the flooring, and so the plumbing fixtures actually finally started to go in on the first floor and at the Tombaugh Theater this week. And so next week they will start putting in all of the partitions, because that's noisy work, and we have to limit them to doing that on Mondays and Tuesdays because of where the restrooms are located. So that will be getting going. And finally, we'll be able to open up the restaurant. That will now allow us to reopen finally the theater. And so that will be step one of our getting back to normal operations. The second part of that that has been problematic has been on the personnel side, and that's our receptionist. We are still short receptionists. We only have one permanent receptionist currently. We're supposed to normally have three. We only have one. One of them is on family medical leave and will be through the 1st of January. We were going through the hiring process, but lost one of the receptionists that we were in the process of hiring just before they were supposed to start up. So we are back into that process. We should get the first list here soon. But that's a key problem for us getting going again on being fully reopened. As far as the hours, because right now we have to limit ourselves to Tuesday through Sunday, just because of not having enough personnel on site. So that's one thing going on. On the budget side, continuing with that, the capital you heard Patrick talking about. So currently our capital for this year, we started off the year with over $950,000 of capital funds that were allotted to us from DCA for a number of projects. Those are all ongoing. Here at the museum, they have to do with service water line, they have to do with exhibit upgrades. We did lose out of that a couple $100,000, and I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that it was removed out because there was a significant HVAC need and some capital needs at some of the other facilities in DCA. So an easy place to take out of was some of the exhibit upgrades here. That being said, in the request for next year, that was the lead-in for what is being requested for next year. There are currently 5 items that are in the request that is going up. So DCA has its normal budget request that goes up, and there will be requests for support for that. But then you've got the capital request as well. And that's the area where if you happen to be talking to legislators, especially the ones that are for our area down here in southern New Mexico and Otero County, with 2 senators and a couple of legislators, 3 actually, that really kind of oversee our area. It's just nice to mention that, it'd be nice to support the capital requests that DCA has submitted. In our situation, the 5 things that are requested, the first one is a security system upgrade for our entire security that will be able to allow us to go wireless and improve the monitoring that we do of items inside the cases. We'll be able to have wireless monitors inside the cases, and it will standardize all the panels, all the operations in all the buildings. Right now, it is a bit of a hodgepodge. They all work, but it's a bit of a hodgepodge of different systems at different buildings that were built at different times. So that will standardize everything. Then we've got stucco repair and building repair and erosion mitigation at the Hubbard building, which is our curatorial storage building. We have a problem with water flowing around it, and it's affecting the stucco. It's affecting the land around it, eroding, and could get down to the actual structure of the building if we don't go after that. So there's about $43,000 for that. Then there's $73,000 that is for the removal and replacement with a wall of the old garage door at the Museum Support Center that is no longer used because there's a chain link fence right on the other side of it. But it needs to be removed out, replaced, and then it's also for sealing up the entire building. There are holes in the metal structure of the building that allow dust to get in. So it's repairing all of that. Then there's $280,000 for parking lot work and repairs at the museum, especially in the upper parking lot and the one down by the Tombaugh Theater building. And the last thing is $225,000 for interactives and exhibit upgrades as well. So that's what the request is just for the museum itself. This does not include any monies that DCA would be requesting for statewide, where we would get an allotment of that, which is what we're operating off of this year. All the projects that are going on this year are all part of DCA's statewide allotment. And so that's what we've got this year for capital. So that's what's being requested for next year. And what you'll see is that there will be, and this goes a little bit into, maybe it's a preview, John, of key decision making. It's not really a decision maker, but it's an area where DCA looks for support, and that's that we will be having a number of legislative committee hearings that will be coming up between now and the legislative session and during the legislative session. When those come up, when they're scheduled, we will put out the word to the foundation, to the commission, to the stakeholders for the museum, and just asking for support. And that is support to contact their legislators, to potentially, if they can, show up at the legislative sessions as well, to show their support for the museum. Traditionally, we've had from the commission one or two. One time we had three over the last 10 years. Commissioners show up at a one of these, finance committee meetings where they were discussing the budget and the capital requests for DCA. So we will get word out to the commission and the foundation when those things come. It comes down from DCA to us, and then we spread it out to everybody. And Michaeline Kairala will be the one who's really spearheading all of that discussion. So that's kind of one of the things coming up that will be an opportunity to provide significant support to the museum and to DCA. In my report, I mentioned that I would just briefly talk about the exhibits that are going to be redone. So the fifth floor, when we talk about monies and the new design that we're doing for exhibit renovation, we're going to be renovating and redesigning the fifth floor, and we're already in progress doing it, as well as the Tombaugh Theater exhibits. In the Tombaugh Theater, the exhibits are going to be robotic exploration of space, as well as the solar system and deep space astronomy. So that's what will be inside of, very smartly, the planetarium building as exhibits about the museum. So currently we have a few exhibits detailing those, with the Magic Planet, with the full scale New Horizons spacecraft, with the Looking at Earth exhibit from the Smithsonian, et cetera. But this will be a total redesign that will cover all of those areas, starting with the very center of the solar system, working its way out into deep space, and along with that, talking about the robotic exploration and the telescope exploration that is done of deep space. On the fifth floor, on 5A, it will be a timeline exhibit that covers from archaeoastronomy all the way up through October 1957 with the launch of Sputnik. So trying to cram a lot of information, as you can well imagine, into a very short period or very short amount of space on the fifth floor on 5A. 5B will be a topical timeline. And so we have a number of those timelines, like the fourth floor is about rockets, missiles, and motors. 5A will be about preparing humans to fly in space. So selection of astronauts and cosmonauts, the animal training and testing, and the balloon experiments, the rocket sleds, a lot of those sort of things, how we learned to fly in space and how we continue to learn to fly in space. So those will be the three exhibits that are getting renovated as part of these new funds that we have received, and the new design that's going to be done by the Design Force company for the museum. Last thing, you heard the discussion of the Trinity site, and it's gone very well, and it's going to continue hopefully going very well. One of the other things we also did a Comic-Con where we went down and worked with the foundation. They set up their booth and we're selling gift shop wares. And then we also were there showing and previewing the new science fiction, sci-fi, sci-fact exhibit. And that was extremely popular. And just about everybody we talked to was planning on coming up to the museum either right away after the Comic-Con or sometime between then and probably when the new exhibit opens up about sci-fi and sci-fact, because that's an interest level for them. The last thing that we were working with Commissioner Fahey about was talking about just giving a quick brief on the education programs that we're currently doing and that we have planned over the next 12 months. And so Dave Dooling and Tony Gondola are going to talk for about 5 to 10 minutes, just really quickly, on what we have planned, so that the commissioners here, we're going to try and bring everybody up to speed on what it is that we do. And so there's going to be a discussion of some of the education programs so that you hear what we have currently going on progress and some of the things that we will be doing over the next 12 months. So Dave and Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you for, like I said, about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll give you the hook if you're going too long.
Thank you, Chris.
Dave, you're muted if you're trying to talk. If we lost Dave, I'm going to turn it right over to Tony. Tony, you take it away.
Okay, well, on the outreach side,
Dave, sorry.
we
Perfect.
have Dave.
I knew that if I stepped out to get some water, that my turn would come up. Sorry. Okay, so the education and public outreach planning activity, I tried to keep this as brief as possible. We got 4 people, 4 positions authorized. One is vacant, and Chris just mentioned that that's the higher authorization that we just got, plus Tony as the outreach coordinator, interface with schools. We'll talk about his activity in a moment. In terms of facilities, I think most of you have probably been down here. We got 2 classrooms and now the chemistry lab, which is still a bit of a mess as we take over and get things stored, and the flight simulator out at the support center. Primary activities. Summer camps, which we will resume this coming summer. Details are in the attachment. Excuse me. We're going to be doing them in Los Alamos and Las Cruces. Plus, virtually any of those activities we can take out to the schools. We can do them just about anything we can do at the museum. We can do away at any school, with the exception of the museum tour itself. And then Tony's going to talk about how he's rebuilding his activities. Just want to keep this short. Ms. Fahey, look forward to seeing you down here in a few weeks. Tony, your turn.
Okay, on the outreach side of the house, job number 1 is we're really rebuilding post-COVID activities, direct programs to schools and libraries and other entities. So we kind of lost a lot of ground because of the time off for COVID. So we're going to be working on rebuilding some of that. Another item is we're going to be having a grand opening of our new museum observatory in 2022. And I think this is going to be a great facility because it's really going to enhance our on-site outreach, and we'll be able to work with NMSU to host student and public research. So I think it's going to be a really great thing. We're also reintroducing our Great Southwest Star Party. We ran one instance of that in 2019, and we're going to be coming back strong as the Great Southwest White Sand Star Party, and that should be held in the fall of next year. We're also exploring partnerships with Blue Origins Club for the Future, Virgin Galactic, and SpaceX to bring new space into our STEM programming. So we're real excited about that. We think it's going to be doing a lot of interesting things. Early in 2022, we'll be doing our annual educator evening, which is our way of giving thanks to all of the local educators that have supported us. And lastly, for the first time, we're going to be doing an offsite summer camp. We're going to be partnering with Farm and Ranch to do an offsite summer camp in parallel with the on-site camp that we're doing here. And that's about everything from outreach.
So I'm going to go ahead.
If I may, Chair has.
Yes, Paulo.
Yes, I wanted to add something since we were talking about education, and Tony and Dave. We're also going to be partnering with the museum, the New Mexico Space Grant, for hopefully a face-to-face workshop for educators. We did something similar to that effect this past July, but we did it remotely. So we'll be coordinating that effort. How does it sound, Dave? I know we talked about it before, but so.
I'm sorry, Paulo, you broke up real bad. It's been unstable.
Yeah, I was saying that we're also going to be coordinating with New Mexico Space Grant and your museum workshop, professional development for educators, similar to what we did this past summer in July, and Tony was involved with it. But this is going to be hopefully a face-to-face professional development opportunity.
Yes, and also we're working up a partnership with the Alamogordo campus. Dr. David Fletcher, who's in their technology outreach department, just approached us last week. That is so fresh that at the moment it's less than amorphous, so I didn't include it on the list. We want to firm it up a little bit before we talk about it more.
Oh, thank you for that. It sounds like there's several good plans in work, and now that we're finally learning how to get back together and open things up, we can get these things kicked off in a in-person manner. Commissioner Fahey.
Just a quick question. You're referring to an attachment for more info. I didn't see the attachment. Where was that sent? Via email?
Chris, I could sent that to you late this morning.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was talking about either, but we'll get out that plan to everybody after this meeting. So, and that was just a listing of it was supposed to be a listing that they were preparing of things that we do. One thing that I wanted to say that they didn't mention, we talked about getting things going again, and it's the schools as well, trying to get things going on their end, libraries, et cetera. We're now getting in for the first time bookings again to do the programs both here on campus and away. Right now, we're getting booked to do some programs off-site over a 3-day period. And so that's just one of the things. We're a little different in that realm than the other museums in DCA, where we go out with our programs and we go all over the state. In fact, actually, we've gone out of state to do programs as well. And that's what Dave was talking about. Our routine things that we do here, the classroom sessions, which could be anything from, the title of one is The Awful Truth About Zero G, and tours and things like that. But any of those programs we take on the road as well and do those offsite. In addition to, we have a portable planetarium that we take offsite and can do portable planetarium programs at schools, libraries, whatever organization books it with it. And those actually bring funds into the state and to the foundation as well.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions for Chris? Carlos.
So speaking of getting things going on your average visits per day, it's 152 in August and then September 162. How does that compare to pre-COVID?
So the comparison that we've been having to make is to 2019 because 2020 there wasn't really any numbers. So when we tend to take a look at just the total number of visits for a month as being a key thing. So when we go back to we were below the numbers for 2019 for when we opened up in May, for June, July, August, and September. But that didn't surprise us because June, July, August, and September of 2019 was right around all the time when all the press was going out about the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. This is the first month where we are actually going to break the numbers from 2019. And so that when we were in 2019, all through the time frame from July 1st all the way up to when we shut down in March, we were on a record-breaking pace at that point in time. Every year from 2012 to 2019, so over that 8-year span, we increased our visitation every single year. Obviously, 2020 went through the floor. This year, it's going to look very odd because we're only partially open as well. But the museum visitation is actually up now over what we saw in 2019. So what we're now showing is that we're going to very likely, I can't guarantee anything, but we're very likely going to start increasing on our numbers from what we were doing in 2019, which was more than 2018, 2017, 2016, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Commissioner Fahey, some question?
No, I just actually wanted to add on to the fact that you guys also have a YouTube channel. And if you sign up with Facebook, I've seen really interesting, videos from Director Dooling, just explaining flight and general things. So it seems like that at least the online activity has been also carrying forward as well.
Yeah, that's an area of great success for us. I will say is that, and the entire marketing and education and curatorial teams have been working together with that. Kathy is the coordinator of all of our online outreach social media efforts. And then Dave, Tony, Mike Shinaberry, Sue Taylor, our curator, staff all over the place are the ones creating the content that's going out on Facebook. It's going out on YouTube. And we also do some fun posts on there as well. I think I mentioned in my report, one of our posts that we just did got over 1.5 million views. So and those are the sort of things that help us for marketing. the network shows, social media marketing that gets, that goes viral, things like that are what get the name of the museum out there and bring more and more people to us. So thank you for that observation, by the way, Commissioner Fahey. Appreciate that.
Are there any other questions for the director? All right, thank you very much, Chris. All right.
It looks like Beth's got a question.
Yeah, Chris, on one in your report, you mentioned going to get an onload of artifacts that are donated by a private individual. What's the onload? What are you getting?
So in total, we don't know because he's got over $12 million worth of artifacts in 2 warehouses. And so whoops, sorry, let me cancel that. So when we head out there, what he's got that we're hoping that we get a hold of are things like a full Mariner spacecraft. He's got a number of diskies. He's been collecting for a lot of years. He has a lot of, he's donated in the past to us things like the simulator system that was used to train the Apollo astronauts for their navigation, a couple of satellites, satellite models, a full-on toilet that was one of the research pieces that they were creating even before they built the first Skylab toilet. Just many different things like that. And so we're actually going out to take a look and decide and select, and we're going to be filling up just one container. In the past, we brought back over 3 26-foot trucks worth of items to the museum that were added to the collection. This time, we're actually going out there in conjunction with the leadership from RR Auction House, and what's happening is that some of the items will be going to RR Auction that he's going to be selling as he draws down his collection. Some of the items are going to be coming to the museum. His goal is to bring the collection down because they're likely going to be moving out of state.
And so he provides the provenience on all the artifacts that you select, and they're all donated. So
yes,
he receives a tax credit for it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how do you figure out the amount of storage that you might need in the future?
So it depends on how much of his collection he's going to give us. If he were to give us everything, we would need to actually build another about 30% more storage than what we currently have, because that's the size of his warehouse. But we're not going to get everything. In my end, I think we're probably going to get about 30 to 40% of that collection. So what we need to do is see how much of the things that we currently have in storage we can get restored and on display, because we do have a number of big items that are over there that are like, there's a lunar rover that's sitting over there, and there's pieces of the DCX, and we'd like to get those on display, but we need a building to do that. So this is all part of that 4 to 5 year plan. That these are things that are going to be discussed when we do the strategic planning process.
And essentially the state would pay for the transportation and transport of those items that you would receive from the private individual.
It depends. The foundation in the past paid for all the transport of the items as they came to the museum.
Uh-huh. And the foundation also has bought the items that you have in your collections too, in some cases.
In some cases, yes. That's if you take a look at the entire history of the museum, there have been situations where the foundation has acquired artifacts and donated to the museum. There is times when the foundation has acquired artifacts and then the museum has purchased them from the foundation, just so that artifact didn't go to somewhere else when it was a timely issue and things like that. And there's been a number of different ways that the foundation has been supporting the museum over the last 4.5 decades.
So the bill of lading eventually will be what you decide to take.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Director Wall? All right, moving on our agenda. I don't have a formal report to deliver today, but I do have a few comments I want to take this opportunity to make. let's see, we did, as I said in my opening remarks, we ended up canceling the meeting on August 27th. And as you all know, with some of the committee work and some of the visits that were planned, this COVID Delta wave really hit a lot of us pretty hard and restricted a lot of the things that we had planned on doing in a face-to-face way. It's resulted in the cancel and the two meetings not happening so far that we really thought we could do face-to-face. I'm very much hoping that we can make that happen in January when the time comes. But I do have to say that despite that, I think it's also demonstrated some resiliency, especially on the part of the museum being able to respond to that, get open again, and seeing the attendance pick up. So there really are some successes despite the last several months of inconvenience with that. So we're all caught up in that, but I sincerely appreciate everybody's patience as we learn how to work together in a new way. For the first time, I failed in my personal goal of making it to the museum between each of the commission meetings, and I want to say I know that there have been some who have made it there, and I can't tell you again how valuable it is when I spend time at the museum meeting with Chris and his staff and folks, just to see what's going on and the progress that's being made. Many of the improvements are extremely evident. I'll be spending some time there again, certainly in December. And I've talked to a couple of you already. I plan to drag you with me. So we'll be coming to town, Chris, sometime in December in small groups and taking advantage of your hospitality there. Let's see, this is probably a discussion item that may lead to an action item on next meeting's agenda. And that is, in fact, I want to bring Valerie Jo into this discussion. It seems to me that there might be a discrepancy in the standing rule number 1 that talks about how we handle and post agendas for these meetings. And there's just 2 things I want to say about standing rule number 1, and I'll assign one of the first actions to me. One is I don't understand whether there is actually a discrepancy that we need to fix up. And if that's the case, I will volunteer to work on that with the Attorney General's office and see if we can get that smoothed out so we can get that in front of the commission to vote on any changes. And I'll come back to that one in just a second. And the second one is we do have an obligation, according to standing rule number 1, which is to determine annually, what constitutes a reasonable notice of our public meetings. And so that's something that we're expected to do and establish. And I just wanted to say that I'll be canvassing folks on the commission for some input into that so that we can, fulfill the duty under that rule to establish what we think constitutes reasonable notice of our public meetings and make sure that we get that appropriately acknowledged and voted on by the commission. And I'll put that on the agenda for the January meeting. Let me return to the first item and ask Valerie Jo if you had an opportunity to review that rule and whether or not there was you noticed any discrepancies in it with respect to regulations.
Right. So in paragraph 2, it talks about regular meetings, giving 10 days notice in advance, and then the notice itself has to give an indication how a copy of the agenda may be obtained. Mm-hmm. And then it says specifically that 72 hours before any regular meeting, the agenda must be posted at the museum on the museum's website, as well as the Office of Cultural Affairs in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I think there's no specific problem with what is stated there. What the board might want to consider when it gets ready to adopt its next one, since this is an annual review type thing, is I don't know if you want to state exactly where you would post the notice itself. But other than that, there's no inconsistencies. It just might benefit from a little bit more information. That's all.
Okay, I appreciate that. So what I will do, if there are no objections from the commission, is I will request any inputs that anyone on the commission has with respect to the language in that. If you do not have a copy of standing rule number 1, let me know. I'll get you one. I'll collect those and coordinate them, and I'll place that on the agenda for discussion and a decision at the January meeting, so we can fulfill that obligation, get that clarified, and then make sure that we're living up to those expectations and that they're clear. All right.
Make one comment.
Yes.
Having served on other commissions, when a meeting is posted and a time and a place, whether it's on Zoom or in person, it's really incumbent upon the commission to post the agenda at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gives people a time to review stuff. And I think also that, the reports, the director's reports and other things that we're going to be discussed could be posted in a timely manner so that people have access to the information. Certainly things can get changed on the agenda in terms of their order, and new agenda items can be added if there is a quorum that allows that during the meeting. But I think having the meeting posted, and again, it's a public thing. In the past, they did it in the newspaper. Well, nobody does that anymore per se, but I think the website allows that to happen, and the agenda should be part of it.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary. I'll make sure to get your inputs for that, and we'll include those in the discussion and our action item for January. And I think what this highlights to me is we just need some clarity to this. And when I read through it, it isn't entirely clear to me. And so we'll get that buttoned up and make sure everybody's aware of it, and that we're quite clear on what we're doing. Okay, let's see. And I think any other comments I had on this can be covered later on when we get down to talking about the standing subcommittee reports. I had some things to say about the collections committee, and I'll just bring those up at that time. So any questions for me? All right. Okay, I had added on the item number 9 on the agenda. We started with this last year, and this was the upcoming key milestone dates, for the commission. These are key decision items, and what I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about the intent of that. Really, there doesn't necessarily have to be any particular content to this, but what I wanted to do is make sure on our agenda we had an opportunity to interact with DCA, with the museum, and give Chris and Patrick especially any particular. And I think this actually goes back to as well, Valerie Jo, the Attorney General's office. If there are any particular upcoming key milestones, dates, or needs that need the attention of the commission, and you would like to ask us specifically to work on between now and the next commission meeting, so that we can establish some due dates, milestones for ourselves, and then get back to you on those actions, get them included and prepared for the next meeting. So that is the intent of that item that I'll keep on the agenda every month. And so I'll open the discussion to either of you to see if there are things that we need to make sure we are putting on our agenda for the coming quarter. Chris, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So the key thing there when you're talking about the commission and decision making points, much of the commission is oversight as opposed to operational decision making, which DCA is doing those sort of things. So if you take a look at each, the 4 quarters in the meetings, January, April, July, and October, certain things get reviewed and taken a look at by the commission, or should be, once we're kind of all up and operating more normally. The first thing would be to review the long range strategic plan, which we were doing prior to COVID hitting, with a large chart that had all of the items that were part of the long range strategic plan, and reviewing where we were on progress and potentially moving things around. So that was a decision that was being made potentially, but it was just a review of the long range strategic plan. And then with the collections committee, once that's reestablished, truly, then the collections committee would be just taking a look and seeing if there was anything, and reviewing what the museum presented, saying this is what we collected over the last 3 months, and if there was any changes to what the collections committee and the commission wanted the museum to look at, what it was or shouldn't be collecting of the things that we've done. And for that, really need to get people here and take a look at what we've got, so, because it's not just what we have on display, it's also what we are preserving in there. And that's the things that are really going on in January, April, July, as far as review and decision making. October can have more items, and generally does, because you'll have a couple of things that may lead to other things in January. The first one would be if we were looking at a price increase. And generally the staff will be looking at the last year's worth of operation, figuring out, do we need to change prices? Do we need to make an adjustment of anything? Because that's something that the commission definitively controls. And we want to make those decisions generally before the January meeting, so that we can implement it during a kind of the dead time of the winter then, which is generally when we have done that traditionally. So that decision would be in January, but it would be discussed in October. Another thing that sometimes gets discussed in October that has a lot of decisions associated with it is if there's anything support-wise for the legislature, for the upcoming legislative session. And that's some of why you've been hearing Patrick and myself mentioning these are the things that are coming up. And that, we'll be looking for support from the commission for, and figuring out if the commission wants to decide to actually do anything as a group, individually, the committee, etc. One of the things that comes in with that is usually every other year, when we have the longer session, the 60-day session, we will hold a reception for the legislature that is done by the foundation, but the commission actually does participate in that as well, in the timing of the meetings and the reception itself. That is not applicable this year because it's a short session. So in any case, that would happen in October as well. So those are the kind of the review and decision-making points that come up on a routine basis. Obviously, then there's ad hoc things that come up, similar to the thing that I'll be presenting on here in just a moment, that has to do with the CYFD foster child monitor. And those are ad hoc decisions that could come up anytime. That was based on something that just recently got approved, and that the CYFD, the governor, and the DCA wanted the commission to review and approve. So.
All right, thank you.
I'll turn it over to see if Patrick or Valerie have anything to add beyond that.
I think, and thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. I think Chris summarized a lot of it beautifully. Touched on that, issues like price increase, move those issues forward. I will say, as you're going through your strategic planning, if you identify that you're going to need another facility for something, if we're looking at a major change, having that come from the commission far enough in advance that we can start incorporating that into the ICIP requests. As I said, everything has to be in advance, that we put that into our planning. Those are good things to think about. And it might just be, whether it's an educational issue, whether it's something with preservation, however direction you might go, Chris showing up with, train load cars full of artifacts that somebody's decided to donate. We may have a need for that, but that'll be an important time there to get that into the agenda.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, that's actually a very good point, because having seen what we have in storage right now, and the size, the physical size of the museum, the display space that exists, and that there are things that are getting older and are becoming more available, this is probably a problem that's going to persist. It's actually going to get worse over time. We're going to have an opportunity to pick up a lot more stuff. Things are getting preserved more, and we have limited amount of space. And so that's a good kind of thing for us to keep our eye on that ball. So thank you for that comment, Patrick. Valerie Jo, do you have anything to add?
No, just the open meetings resolution is just something the board should do annually. Other than that, from my end, I'm just here to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And you know, if I know there were the formation of the collections committee and any bylaws or standing rules that need to be formed with respect to that, I mean, that type of stuff would be in my wheelhouse to assist the commission. But otherwise, you know, I'm just here to assist as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for both of those items, both the open meetings resolution, of course, you know, is on our radar, as well as we're going to talk in a few minutes about the collections committee. Now that we've established it, I want to get some folks nominated to that committee, and so we can do the next step then, which will be to create the standing rule that defines it, and then start functioning. So yeah, we've got a few things that have to happen in the right order, but those again are also on our radar. So thank you. Okay, any more questions or comments on item 9? Commissioner Fahey?
I'm sorry if this is backtracking, but I had a question about the report that Chris had sent out about the deed not happening yet. And I was just wondering if that's something that, is there a holdup for a reason, or is that going to impact anything that we need to do related to that?
It doesn't necessarily affect anything that we're doing. The key thing there is that, you know, currently, quote unquote, the NMSU still owns the building. They own the building until the quitclaim deed is submitted by them. And there's some internal legal stuff that's going on at NMSU. And I ping in there about every 3 to 4 weeks and just try to see what's going on. But it's really dealing with their lawyer and our lawyers watching it as well. But that's internal to them, getting the quitclaim deed submitted to the state. Once that's done, then that transfers the building ownership to DCA. Then as soon as that happens, I actually have sitting right here the quitclaim deed already approved by DCA that I will then take down to the courthouse and submit, that will transfer the ownership of it, same as all the other buildings, from DCA to the commission. And so that is all ready to go. It's like I said, there's nothing that we can really do to force the issue happening internal to NMSU at the moment to make all of that happen. But in the meantime, operationally, they have officially turned over everything operational inside the building to us. And DCA has agreed with them that we would take over all of the utilities and everything for actually operating the building, and that is ongoing. We have moved in everywhere in that building, and we're operating and using it all now.
Thank you, Chris. Having dealt with similar things at the federal level between different agencies, I can tell you it's often more difficult to get things done within the federal government than it would be if we were to do it outside. So maybe this would be easier if it was another state. Who knows? Anyway, we'll stand by, and I'm sure that'll happen. Any other questions before we move on? All right, thank you. So I had tabled, this is really not an action item we need to vote on, but last meeting we had nominated Commissioner Cross to be the chair of the development committee, and I had heard that she was okay with that. I did not want to make that appointment with her not in the room. Sort of that old joke, you get assigned something when you're not there to defend yourself. So I wanted just to handle that formally, but I did want to make sure that Commissioner Cross was available to say for the record that she is okay with taking on that assignment. And so I will ask at this time, Commissioner Cross, are you amenable to being the chair of the Development Committee?
Yes, sir. I'd gladly accept it.
Thank you. I knew you would. I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to do that when you weren't in the room. So thank you, and that will make that appointment official, and we'll get going with that work. I do plan in sometime in December to be able to spend some time in Alamogordo, and I'm hoping I can coordinate that meeting so that I can meet with Commissioner Cross and spend some time with the foundation as well as with Director Orwell. So we'll try to get all that stuff coordinated and do a little bit of limited mask to mask meeting or whatever it is we need to do. So thank you. And then next item 11, which is approve the new admission initiative for CYFD foster child monitors. That is your item, I believe. Chris. Muted.
Yep. Sorry, I noticed that as soon as I started talking, my system told me I was muted. So that goes back to in 2019, the Department of Cultural Affairs, working with the governor's office, started granting free admission to all New Mexico foster parents and foster children to the museums and the historic sites. And we've been doing that. We offer free admission. And so that the policy that the department had created was amended earlier this year, and they wanted to make it that not only was it just the foster families and their parents, but also quite frequently the foster children are accompanied by the minders from CYFD, the Child, Youth, and Family Department. And so in any case, so what the Department of Cultural Affairs did is they amended the actual policy that they put out, added 2 sections to it that state the following, and I'll read them off. Effective January 1st, 2022, children in the custody of CYFD and the CYFD staff escorting them shall be provided free admission to all Department of Cultural Affairs museums and historic sites throughout New Mexico. And then the 5th part is proof of eligibility shall be required in the form of a CYFD staff badge. So what the Department of Cultural Affairs wanted the commission to do was to hear that and approve the free admission for the CYFD staff when they are escorting the foster children to the Museum of Space History, since you control the admission prices to the museum. So the proposal would be just to accept the new Department of Cultural Affairs policy as it relates to the museum free admission for foster families.
So moved.
I want to first ask for if there are any discussion items or comments surrounding that proposal by any of the commission. Commissioner Fahey?
So I just want to clarify. So currently it is free for foster families. The only addition is the staff.
Yes, the only addition would be that the CYFD staff would be allowed free admission to the museum as well when they were escorting foster children.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I will just add my own comment that I think this is a good idea. These, especially I view these as being, vulnerable children who are, are benefit from this type of interaction, and the more we can enable this to happen, the better. And I think this is an enabling action that we can take. So Commissioner O'Leary, you had previously moved to approve this.
Move it again.
Second?
I second.
Right, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Commissioner Churchill? Indicates yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Cross?
Aye.
Commissioner Elder,
Aye.
Commissioner Fahey,
Aye.
Commissioner Fryer.
She's not there.
I think Commissioner Fryer has lost audio. And we can't hear her. Okay. Commissioner Martinez,
Aye.
Commissioner McAteer,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Leary,
Aye.
Commissioner Omeg,
Aye.
Commissioner Tappan,
Aye.
and John Haas votes aye as well. The motion is passed. All right. Now the item 12, which is a standing subcommittee reports and discussion of museum needs for each. We covered some of this already, actually, in our discussion about key decision and schedule for the commission. I wanted to just clarify two things. There really are two intents for this standing item on our agenda. One is for committees to have an opportunity to report their progress on any matters that they have been contemplating. And two, a second reason for this is to solicitate any discussion from the rest of the commission, the directors or DCA on any needs or gather feedback from the commission and DCA and the museum on the activities of the committees. So the intent is really twofold here, to allow us a little time on the agenda to talk about those things. As I said in my opening remarks, there's been a lot of challenges with some of the startup of some of the meetings that we had planned to do in a face-to-face manner, but we weren't able to make those happen. That includes some of the meetings that were going on with some of the committees, and especially their need to visit the museum, meet with staff, and have the kind of conversations and build the relationships that are necessary to make this as functional as we want it to be. So I fully understand that this has been a difficult few months, and I understand that things are getting better. So I want to just go through these each in turn and just ask if the committee chairs have any particular items they want to bring up, and if not, you'll have an opportunity at each of the meetings to do that. And I just had a request, if folks can double check your mics if they're open, please try to mute them if they're not. We do get some background noise. So I'll start with the development committee. I know Commissioner Cross was just appointed as the chair of that committee, but if there's anything you have to say or share, this is an opportunity to do so, and if not, that is okay as well.
Currently, I don't have anything, but maybe at the next meeting, I'll have an update.
Okay, and I hope to be able to meet with you and some of the folks in the foundation prior to then. So if there's anything I can do to help that, please feel free to reach out. Commissioner Churchill, anything that you'd like to bring up from the Mission and Long Range Planning Committee?
Not at this date, but like Rhonda said, possibly we'll have some things to talk about by the next meeting. I think that having one of the site visits with the committee would be something we want to do between now and the next commission meeting.
Okay, that's an excellent idea, and I know that you and I have spoken about possibly getting to the museum together at some point. So I'm looking forward to that.
Right. I had a very kind offer from Chris. Thank you very much, which I didn't reply to. I told John about that. I didn't tell you, Chris, about that. I won't bother the commission with it, but I kind of had my head to the grindstone pretty harsh this fall. So that would explain it. But thank you for the invitation, and definitely plan on taking you up on that. And I'm hoping that we can bring some of the other committee members along on that trip, if that suits you.
Oh yeah, Most definitely. So I got the report on everything you have going on, and I don't envy you in any way, shape, or form, and look forward to getting everything here for a get together so that the group has a much better idea of where we are and what we need to do so that we can then put that schedule together to get moving on the strategic plan.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Chris. Let's see, Commissioner Fahey, anything from the Education Committee?
So I just wanted to add that I did have the opportunity to go visit with Chris and the staff August 27th. I also had the ability to meet Rhonda in person, which was nice. So just got a general tour and just being able to see kind of what relates to what would be the Education Committee. So I did want to have a Zoom meeting prior to our January meeting. And so Chris has suggested November 15th or 19th at 2 p.m. So the committee members that I have based on the minutes and from last meeting is Paulo, Don Elder, Carlos, and Jacqueline Fryer. So I hope that's still my committee, but just I will shoot out an email to you guys just to confirm which date suits you for a Zoom with Director Dave Dooling and I believe Tony and Chris. But the goal at least is for us as a committee to kind of see how best we can support museum. And then hopefully when we do meet in person in January, hopefully that we at least have a little bit of a precursor to be able to report out at the next meeting. So that's the only thing I have as way of updates.
Thanks, Kimberly. It's really great that you were able to get out to the museum and meet people. I think especially with what you and your committee are pursuing, it's so important to build those relationships. And I really appreciate your leadership there. Thank you. Okay, the next on there is the Collections Committee. And of course, we established that last time. And what we didn't do in the establishment of it was specifically solicit folks for that committee. We talked about it. I had indicated that I would like to be on that Collections Committee. If there are room for 3, and if there are enough people that want to fight over it all, I will bow out, but I'd actually like to do that. So let me open the floor to the rest of the commission to ask if there's anybody who has a particular desire to join us on the Collections Committee. Our first order of business will be to establish our rules of operation and a standing rule that defines what we do and how we interact. But you'll see reflected in the minutes from the last meeting what the makeup of the committee will be. Commissioner O'Leary?
Yeah, when it got born into existence, I went ahead and did some due diligence and intelligence gathering. Mm-hmm. I was convinced that John, you and I were on this committee, and I think there was one more volunteer. But anyway, I started to talk to various individuals, both within the museum and also in other museums. Luckily, I'm getting some real feedback here.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Fryer, your mic is open and it's creating some feedback.
Okay, excuse me. I'm having issues connecting with you.
Anyway, luckily enough, I've been around a long time, so I know a number of people at other different museums and have had conversations with the New Mexico Museum of History, with the Lincoln Historic Site, and with the Farm and Ranch Museum here in Las Cruces. And I think there is a place for looking at the needs and the resources that are available, and an idea of the budget and the protocol for collections. So I look forward to being on that committee. I guess because of its existence, I already put myself on it. But but anyway, that has provided me with some real insights. And every museum is really the value of a museum is in its collections.
Mhm.
And every museum I've ever worked in or known never has enough storage. And so, people could keep building storage facilities forever, but the focus on what's important and that dovetails into the mission statement and the values affects the collections. And also, I think being in southern New Mexico, and Patrick, you can back me up on this, we are the Bosnia of the Southwest in some respects. So we get kind of short shrifted in many ways. And when you're looking at other museums and the amount of staffing and resources that they have that are state run, the Museum of Space History has some way to travel. So I'm interested in this subject and hopefully can share with you, John, if you're the only other member. And it's unclear why there are 3 people on this committee versus other committees that have more than 3.
Well, we can discuss that as we establish the rules.
Aren't the rules similar to any subcommittee within the museum commission?
Well, there are no rules yet.
It comes from the collection. It comes from the collections plan that was approved by the commission.
So we can take it. We can revisit that if necessary, and we'll take a look at all those things.
Okay. Well, why don't you send out the plan to everybody too?
I will get a copy of that, and we will circulate that amongst this committee. Commissioner Fahey?
I just wanted to ask for clarification. So is it that you only allowed 3 members in the committee, and do you already have that, or are you still looking?
No, we're still actually looking at that right now. The collections plan, which we haven't had an opportunity to review to any extent, establishes 3. The limit, of course, is 5, because then we would have a quorum if we had any more than that. So there's a legal issue there, but we can reevaluate the collections plan if necessary, and discuss what we think our needs are and how best to support that. It is an important function, and I think it can also be something that is very engaging for our people that want to be involved in the collections. So at this point, we do have at least 2 members of the committee, myself and Dr. O'Leary. Is there anyone else who at this time is interested in joining the collections committee? And if you don't have any interest right now, there's no pressure there. There'll be an open slot, and if we need to fill it, we'll go look for someone.
I'm interested.
All right, I will place you on the committee as well with us, and we'll get together. I'll volunteer to get folks together, and then what we will do is discuss whether or not we need to expand the membership, whether we want to limit it. We'll draft some rules and standing rule for that, and we'll examine the collections plan, and we'll bring what we find back to the full commission for discussion and vote or change as necessary.
I have a question for Valerie. When we draft up all this stuff, does it go through you?
She'll certainly assist us in making sure that we are staying within the guidelines that we need to from rules, regulations, and any laws.
Right. I believe after you have, and we can talk about, procedurally how you would like to do this, commissioners and commission chair. But the committee itself can meet and think about what types of standing rules that they want. And then I can just review them to make sure, they're good as they are once they've been agreed upon. And as long as they don't, violate any laws, they should be fine.
Okay, well, why don't we rope you into the first meeting then? That would be useful to us, I think.
The other thing that you're really going to have to take a look at is you got to have DCA involved with that significantly, both the museum and DCA, because the collections plan is not just what we collect, which is where the commission comes in, but it's how we operate everything in the collections area, which is all DCA related and not necessarily the commission related.
Well, Patrick, I like you. You like me. We can invite you in. Hey.
Yeah, we'll pull all of you together and make
Right.
sure.
I believe when you get to that point, the committee will let me know when they think they need my assistance.
Okay, great. Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, I think like any of the work that we do, it's essentially important that we coordinate this with all of our stakeholders, and we'll do that as we get this stood up. So I'll take the action to initiate that, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, let's see. We're just about done here. Are there any announcements that need to be made by anyone to any purpose? Do we have a general spot on our agenda for that? Any upcoming issues, training, events that we need to be aware of that we're not currently, that we haven't currently discussed?
If I could ask Valerie a question.
Yes, Commissioner Elder.
Valerie, last fall, when I was reappointed to the commission by the governor, I was reappointed for 1 year. Do I need to reapply? Will I be receiving some sort of notification on that?
No.
Right. I believe the information that I have is that until you are informed that you are no longer a part of the commission, you continue to serve. But if you do have questions specifically about your appointment, or if you need to reapply, you can ask the governor's office, their boards and commissions division specifically, if you would like more clarification. But you are free to attend and participate until the governor's office lets you know otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that, Don. Commissioner O'Leary, you had a comment?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to announce something that is in the future, but concerns one of my colleagues in NMSU. On February 11th at 2 p.m. at the Stan Fulton facility on the NMSU campus in Las Cruces, we will be holding the dedication of the Clarence H. Fielder Hall, which is the wing of the Breland Hall, which is the history department. And this honors the legacy of an African-American historian who served the state for many years, won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Department of Cultural Affairs for his promotion and creation of African-American history and curriculum in the state. And so I may be inviting some of the commissioner members to this and to celebrate a step forward at NMSU, which he attended when the Las Cruces school system was segregated. Mm-hmm. So it's a big step, and it's a wonderful honor that NMSU has come forward, and this hall, this wing actually of the Breland Hall, will be dedicated with his family members attending.
Thank you for sharing that, Beth. Having known him personally, he's quite a wonderful person. So thank you for sharing that with the commission. All right. Any other announcements or comments before we move on to our last two quick items? All right. Very well. All right. The last action is just to confirm establish the dates of our upcoming meetings. Currently, we have January 28th, 2022 as our next regular quarterly meeting. I believe, as usual, that is a Friday. And then April 22nd, which is Earth Day, as our next two meetings, which are on our agenda. And any discussion on either of those dates? Commissioner Fahey.
Are they confirmed in person or are they virtual?
We don't know. The hope, as usual, is that these are indeed going to be face-to-face meetings. That has been our desire for the last two meetings, and our hope. It hasn't worked out, but we will see. A lot of this depends on how well those of us in New Mexico handle the pandemic, and then the decisions made by the governor's office. So I hope they are face-to-face. I look forward to meeting you all in person.
The other thing to note, normally the January meeting is in Santa Fe.
Okay.
Up on Museum Hill. And so there's a little bugaboo thrown into it. If we're able to have our first face-to-face meeting, I'd sure as heck rather do it at the museum.
I would as well.
Where we could get everybody here. Now, that being said, it's during the legislative session, which brings everybody up there. It allows the DCA folks to come over. So I think I've got to bow out of that request or demand, so, and I think that we should hold it up in Santa Fe is where it should be held, just because it will logistically be easier for the DCA staff to participate if it does end up being an in-person meeting. The other question I just wanted to double check on, because normally we would announce 3 meetings, so which would, July 29th would be the next one after that. But the April meeting, that's not the last Friday. Very purposely are we doing it on the 22nd because it's Earth Day, and we just need to make sure that that is known, that it's not the last Friday, which is normally when the commission meets.
I have no objection to doing it on either day. And I personally have no objection to adding July 29th as a particular, as a tentatively scheduled date, or we are establishing it as a date for the meeting in the future. It's 9 months out. So any discussion on April 22nd as being a date that is okay, or should we move that to a week later?
As long as it's announced ahead of time, it's good.
Okay, doesn't sound like there's any objections to keeping it on the 22nd. And we'll add July 29th if we can do that as a date for the future. And we'll reflect that in the minutes. I forget if someone can remind me, is establishing or confirming these dates something that we vote on, or we just read into the minutes? No, we don't need to vote on that. Very well. Okay, last call for any other business or items that we need to discuss before adjourning today. All right. Oh, Commissioner Fahey.
I guess I just need to confirm, when is the location for the January? Is it Santa Fe or is it Alamogordo?
Well, it is. Sounds like it is tentatively Santa Fe if it's in person, and we are going to have to just wait to see what develops over the course of the next couple months, and we'll ask that Director Orwell keep us informed in his communications with Patrick Moore, and we will find out exactly where and when and how.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, having no further business to discuss today, the meeting of the Governor's Commission for the New Mexico Museum of Space History is adjourned. Thank you.